all win.
Welcome to episode 12 of the Predictors podcast, recorded on November 26, 2024, just in time for a beautiful Thanksgiving week. I'm your host, Jay Rock, and today I'm joined by the all-star crew, orthopedic expert Dr. Preventure, the Patriots head surgeon who's seen it all when it comes to injury recovery, the one and only GOAT, Zajac, joining us all the way from California, and our prediction whiz, Nate Dogg. We're diving into the big takeaways from week 12 and looking towards week 13. But before we get into that, let's kick things off with the Rodzone. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot of good hits for you guys today. First, I got to throw it back to the Gamecocks, getting it done against Wofford this weekend and putting us into a potential playoff position if we can win against Clemson on Saturday. And heading straight over to the NFL, the Cowboys got their first win for the first time since Game 6 against the Steelers. Bryce Young almost made it happen against the Chiefs, but Patrick Mahomes pulled out what Patrick Mahomes does best, a little bit of football magic, and a fantastic snow game win for the Browns. It was literally dumping like it was Vail, Colorado out there, and Jameis Winston is locked in more than anyone during a pregame once again. And looking forward to the next set of games, we got beautiful Thanksgiving Day football on the agenda. The Lions versus the Bears, Packers versus the Dolphins, and the Cowboys versus the Giants. Don't be too quick to call a lock on Thanksgiving because anything can go down. So let's get into some week 12 injuries, see who's out the game and who's going to need a little bit of time to get back onto the gridiron. All right, looking towards the Week 12 injuries, we got a big one here in Gardner Minshew, Raiders quarterback. Tyler, give the people a little bit on that.
Yeah, J-Rock, Gardner Minshew down with a fractured clavicle. We know what that means. He is done for the season. It sounds like he may not need surgery for it, which is good for him, but that doesn't help the team if he's done for the season. The good thing is Aiden O'Connell, who was on IR for a fractured thumb in October, has returned to practice. There is a chance that he could play this week. However, if he does not, then it is Desmond Ridder season for the Raiders. They are currently 2-9 and last in the West, so their playoff hopes are pretty dire at this point. Doc, I'll throw this to you real quick. They're thinking no surgery. What goes into that type of decision for a quarterback, surgery versus no surgery for the broken clavicle?
Yeah, it all depends on where the clavicle fracture is. We have many different types. The most common being the mid shaft of the clavicle radius, right in the center. And if it's just a crack, I don't know. I haven't seen the x-rays. I haven't looked at it. But if it's just a crack here or non-displaced, that's something that can heal without surgery. It does take a little bit of time. If it's more at the end of the collarbone, we call that distal clavicle fracture, that's one that can be a little bit trickier. Just depends what it looks like, but a lot of those can be treated without surgery as well. If you're saying no surgery, this is one that's in the zone, that's got minimal displacement, not a lot of angulation. However, I will tell you, plating collarbones in football players is something that's very predictable, a really good, quick, efficient return to play. It's not overnight, but you can get people back 6, 7, 8 weeks very predictably after plating a collarbone. So there's a reason they're opting for non-operative at this point, but we'll wait and see.
Thanks for that, Doc. Looks like it's going to be non-operative for Gardner Minshew. Nate, throwing it out to you, we got Brian Robinson Jr., Commanders running back with an ankle sprain. Give us a little bit on that and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, J-Rock, tough injury for the Commanders considering Austin Eckler also went out with a concussion. Now he did come back in the game after getting taped up, so it's promising for a good playoff push.
We're looking for a playoff push from the Commanders. They are one of those teams that if everything ended right now, they would be in for the playoffs. And going straight to David Montgomery, the Lions running back, part of that Sonic and Knuckles duo. Tyler, how's he looking?
Yeah, well, good news on that front. They're looking at this could be an AC joint, could be a contusion. Either way, he injured it after lowering his shoulder to break through a tackle in the third quarter, took himself out, ended up going to the locker room with his shoulder pads off. The good news is after the game, he said he was good to go and should be able to play Thursday versus the Bears on that Thanksgiving game. He is obviously a large part of that Detroit offense, who is just cruising along. Him and Jahmyr Gibbs are actually the first duo in NFL history with double-digit touchdowns in consecutive seasons. So as you said, the Sonic and Knuckles duo has been crushing it, and the Lions are going to want him for sure as they make their way into the playoffs.
Absolutely. And just looking at the Lions, it's hard to say that they're not going to make it into the playoffs, if not really deep into the playoffs. They are playing some bully ball this season. The Lions are crazy to watch. Nate, looking at Josh Downs, Indianapolis wide receiver, his shoulder may have gotten hurt in the most recent game. How's that looking?
Yeah, J-Rock, it looked, he came down with his arm against the ground, so it really looked like he injured that AC joint right there. And right now he's week to week, so the Colts will probably need to rely more on Mo Alley Cox, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr. And they play the Patriots this week, and Tyler and Doc, you all know the Pats haven't been doing great, so they may hold off on bringing him back since they have the bye week, give him a couple more weeks of rest.
Yeah, for sure. Get some rest. I think that's the right thing to do.
Sounds good. With a little bit of rest, with all of these injuries, that's going to affect your bus score. So let's take a little stop at the bus stop. Go! All right, you already know what's going on. You trust the bus. We trust the bus. My mom trusts the bus. If you're not trusting the bus, then you're not one of us. Tyler, looking at the bus this week, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I think there's some key things to look at there, J-Rock. First of all, the Detroit Lions, we just talked about them. They have had some injuries this season. Hutchinson, now David Montgomery may play this week, but they are just banged up. But even at the low end of the bus, they may be the grittiest team in the NFL as they keep winning. They are playing that Dan Campbell type of football. He always talks about that grit and making it through, getting through whatever it takes, dealing with that adversity. So you love to see the Detroit Lions doing it despite the injuries. The Denver Broncos' health has to be a huge part of their current success. They are having a much better than expected season at 7-5, and their defense and their health has definitely been a huge part in that. So good for them, good for that team and that defense. They are playing well. And of course, Bo Nix is playing out of his mind as a rookie. And then the big thing to look at here is we are getting into week 13. And what do we know about week 13? That's when it starts to split off. We see the healthy teams start to move towards the playoff. We see the unhealthy teams start to kind of move away from the playoffs. And we're already starting to see that in the bus. Teams like the Saints, the Patriots, the Raiders, the Browns, the Panthers, these teams are at the low end of the bus, while teams like Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Broncos, the Packers, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. We're starting to see that split already, and it should get more and more separated as we get closer and closer to the playoff push.
Yeah, and in fact, next week, stay tuned because we're going to have the initial breakout of who's in and who's out of the playoffs. We're going to give you some predictions starting next week based on our bus scores. I'll tell you what, they're really good, and it's helped us high-end predictions about who's in and who's out. And guess what? These teams are all good at the end, just like Tyler said, but it all depends on the health, and health matters. And that's why we're here talking to you tonight. Check it out at the Predictors. Stay tuned next week.
Absolutely. And Tyler, honestly, just looking at that Chicago Bears, they're pretty high up. They're not having the best season, but they have pulled off a win or two that was very unexpected. Do you want to go ahead and say that because of their bus score being so high, that's kind of what's kept them in these games with these tougher teams? Or do you think that's just, a big team going against a smaller team and kind of that advantage?
Listen, J-Rock, we know that health is huge, health is important, but health is a part of why teams win, right? So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but health is a huge one. If they have a high bus score, a high bus ranking, we know that gives them that health advantage in that category over other teams and gives them that chance to use that advantage to win a game. So, yes, the Chicago Bears, they have a rookie quarterback. They're going to have some troubles. They're going to have some growing pains. But as long as they can keep their health score high, they always have that chance to beat a team who maybe on paper is a little bit better than them.
Thanks for that, Tyler. And that's how you know sometimes the lock is not a lock. And we've got some players coming back from injury and are ready to hit the ground running. Let's see who's geared up to make a big impact as they enter back into the season. Go! So looking at some of the returners of the week, Tyler, we got Brandon Cooks. He's been out since week 3. Do you think he's going to come in and make a huge impact, or do you think it's a little too late for him to come in and be a big man?
Well, it's tough because he plays for the Cowboys. So we all know how their season has gone. They're missing Dak for the remainder of the season due to his hamstring. But he had a knee infection after arthroscopic surgery. Doc, you've seen the data. You've seen these types of injuries and this type of complication after surgery. Should this lower his production, or should he come back strong after this?
I'd expect him to come back pretty strong, Tyler. And the reason for this, an infection after an arthroscopic surgery, pretty rare, to be honest. When you look at our literature, you look at the data, I mean, this is less than point-something% of all knee scope cases, maybe even less than that. So there's something going on there. Obviously, something has happened. I don't obviously have the details on this, but when you're coming back after an infection, the big thing we worry about is swelling, residual inflammation, the knee capsule's irritated. I suspect he's got 1 or 2 weeks to kind of get his legs under him, to get feeling in his groove. So I give him a couple weeks just to get this knee feeling well, because if this was a true infection inside the knee, this is going to take a while for that knee to calm down, and you deal with residual swelling, residual synovial irritation, which is the lining of the knee, and it just doesn't quite feel right. And also what's off is the proprioception, which is how your knee moves in space, and understanding where your knee moves in space and understanding exactly where that is. Yeah, my knee's bent just like this. This is how I need to move. This is how I need to cut. So that could be a little bit off if the inflammation's still there.
You got to watch those infections after surgery, and that's what the best surgeons and the best teams can help to prevent for you. Tyler, looking at Trevor Lawrence, he's missed the last 2 games for the Jags. They're not having the hottest season, even though last year they really weren't that bad, to be honest. The Jags were rolling. How's Trevor looking coming back?
Well, he suffered a left shoulder injury in week 9. They are coming off that bye week. Like you said, he missed his last 2 games, then he had that bye week. So he's had the rest he needs. He throws righty. It's his left shoulder. So it really shouldn't affect his throwing motion too much. I'll obviously throw that to Doc to let us know a little bit more. But they're waiting to see. They're going to watch him practice this week, see if he's good to go for the game. But I expect if he's in there, that he should be normal Trevor Lawrence. Now, what that is was a lot better last year than it has been this year. So we'll have to see. He definitely has some weapons on that offense. So hopefully he can get it rolling for the team. But Doc, left shoulder injury, right-handed thrower. What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's not, right's not fully connected to the left, but guess what? In a throwing quarterback, the right's connected to the left. You need the full shoulder girdle functioning. You need both AC joints doing well, doing solid. We saw another quarterback from the Colts get surgery on the AC joint just after a few games last season and actually come back. But the AC joint is one that you really have to respect. If he's treated this without surgery, which we do most AC joints, which is where the collarbone comes into the rest of the shoulder, but it's super important. I almost call it the strut of the entire shoulder. It's like a strut on the front of your car, the front of your motorcycle or whatever, keeping things totally aligned and stable. You definitely need the left one, not as important as the right throwing one, but you definitely need that left one functioning for him to be able to put the ball where he needs to put it.
Thanks for that. We're looking for Trevor Lawrence to not be taken out on his blind side. If his O-line cannot protect that left side from him, the Jags are probably going to have a bad time for the rest of the season. Thanks for hanging out with us this week at the Health Matters Predictors podcast. We've served up all the juicy details from week 12, and now we're ready to feast on the action coming in week 13. The NFL season is in full swing, and the excitement keeps on coming. So grab a fresh plate on Thursday and buckle up. Be sure to join us next week for expert insights, bold predictions, and all-around elite vibes. Until then, stay locked in, and may your parlays be as satisfying as your Thanksgiving dinner. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at @thepredictors_, and check out our website for all things NFL at thepredictors.com. Every week is a new chance to level up and trust the bus. We'll catch you next time. Happy Thanksgiving. Go!